to Health Conscientious Entrepreneurs, where we uncover secrets to entrepreneurship, life, and healthy habits to achieve radiant health. My name is Ngoc Tai. I'm your host today, and today I have my friend, Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, all the way from where, Gabrielle?
We're in San Diego right now.
San Diego, yay!
Yeah.
I love San Diego.
Oh yeah.
California, nice sunny San Diego.
Yeah, it's beautiful out.
Yes, and can you please share your background and profession and what brings you joy?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you said before, my name is Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, and I practice a form of medicine called muscle-centric medicine. And really it's the concept that muscle is the largest organ in the body. So it's not just for locomotion or looking good in a bikini, but it truly is this endocrine organ. Mm-hmm. It is our metabolic currency, and it also is an organ that relates to the immune system, which is a very hot topic. And it determines everything about how you age. Mm-hmm. So, you know, my training, I did 2 residencies and a fellowship, and my postdoctorate work was at Washington University in St. Louis. And that was in obesity medicine, nutritional sciences, and geriatrics. Yeah. And that's really where this concept was born. And it was seeing that the choices midlife, the issues with body composition midlife, change the trajectory of aging and beyond, right? Yeah. It was that pinnacle.
Yeah, because our body is not the same like it used to be when we're young, right?
Right. No, it's not. And in fact, if we don't evolve with our changing hormonal milieu, with that, you know, changing hormonal sauce, then the trajectory of aging is much more unfavorable than it ever could be, right? Because even from a nutritional aspect, it is not as sensitive to nutrients, in particular like protein, which is a key component for muscle. Yeah.
So I remember when I was young, and I could eat anything. I was like, eat, eat, eat. And then when I turned 30 and had my child, I'm like, oh my God, my body totally changed. And now everything is so sensitive, you know? I'm like, okay, you eat a little bit and you feel like, you know, it's totally different. It's not digesting like it used to.
And that could be part of it. Also, the efficiency of utilization goes down. So you require more protein than you did in the past.
And so the proteins that you, when you talk about proteins, what proteins are we talking about in terms of the meat?
It's high quality, gravity bearing protein. And listen, that can also include, so the quality of the protein is really based on the animal product, right? Which, you know, people find very controversial, but it's not. This is hard, fast science. The quality of the protein is based on the amino acids, and high quality protein include things like beef and turkey, you know, chicken, lamb, any of those kind of animal based. Even eggs are good quality protein sources, and whey protein. Yeah, and that really is important to incorporate as you age and if you want to be optimized. So if you are an entrepreneur or an entrepreneur and your focus is optimizing health, you have to get that protein recommendation correct in the correct amounts first. It will help with your metabolism, your ability to focus. It's really essential.
Yeah, it's when we talk about food, it's so confusing. I find
it is confusing for people. Yes, absolutely.
I'm confused, and I'm like and I try to learn as much as I can, but I'm still confused. Like, you know, one minute you hear, okay, you need to go on this kind of diet.
Right.
And next you go to this diet. And I was like, what is the right, you know, balance? Like, it's like everything. What is the right balance? What is the information that's out there that would be useful for people to understand? And I know everybody's body type is different, but there has to be like some, like
there are something
that we
there are core fundamental scientific principles that we know that help protect aging. You know, I'm a trained geriatrician. I did 7 years of nutritional sciences standalone, right? So I trained 7 years in nutritional sciences standalone, and the reason that there's so much confusion is because of this narrative. So there is a lot of agenda that pushes nutrition. And it confuses people. But if you really look at the data and the high quality evidence, so there's a difference between observational data and lower quality evidence that you would never, as a scientist or as a physician, make a recommendation based on low quality evidence. That is more that anti-protein narrative. There's never high quality data. that are randomized control trials. But what you do find is, that, with randomized control trials, you are seeing that higher protein diets, so higher protein diets support muscle mass. And we know that muscle mass is directly related to survivability. You know that there are randomized control trials that improve cardiometabolic profiles, with a higher protein diet. So they improve satiation, they improve the ability to keep weight off. So there's a lot of evidence that actually supports a more optimal protein forward diet.
Yeah.
When you really look at the evidence.
Yeah. But when we talk about meat, I notice that, sometimes when I eat certain meat, my body processes it very different. It's like, I don't know, it's a sensitivity to a certain meat or something like that, or?
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen that, but it could be that perhaps you need some digestive enzymes or betaine, that maybe you have low stomach acid. So you find that when you eat heavier proteins like red meats with some fat, that you perhaps feel heavy or like you're not digesting it as well. And in that case, a really easy fix is betaine or digestive enzymes.
Oh, so get some of that.
Yeah, super easy.
Enzymes. Okay.
And it's also shifting the, really the macros on the plate. I cannot express enough the fact that high quality protein really protects muscle mass. And as we think about individuals moving from their 40s to 50s to 60s, hands down, the most important thing that you can do is you have to protect that tissue. Yeah. There's a natural decline of that tissue. I'm sure you've seen it in your parents.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, our body weight is different. Our Asian body weight is a certain way, My mom actually is a vegetarian. She's been a vegetarian for about 40 years and she's phenomenal. I mean, she's in her 80s, very healthy, doesn't eat anything that has blood and
no osteoporosis.
Yeah. And it's like, oh my gosh, but she's her mind is very sharp. But I need to like eat some meat, and I eat a lot of fruits and vegetables, and I stay away from fast food and sodas and all that snacking. Yeah. Because I never grew up eating lots of snacks, just eating healthy fruits and vegetables.
And that's a great strategy. Yeah. And your mom is lucky. She's the exception. Absolutely. Yes. Most individuals that go vegetarian later on in life end up with some kind of osteoporosis or some kind of fracture, because the vitamin, the zinc and the B12 and the iron is often very low in those diets. The bioavailable sources are very low. So she happens to be lucky.
Yeah. Must be something in the makeup of her body. And I'm like,
probably her gut microbiome. She has an ability to extract certain nutrients. Yeah, probably.
Yeah. And so when we talk about like because you see it a lot, like obesity problem.
You do.
It's just like, it's everywhere now. It's like all US, we have
one out of three people at least.
It's crazy. And even let's say the Asian body, we're not, we're pretty slender and we don't have that kind of makeup, but I'm noticing more and more of us are just getting more obese, and it's just, and then, our diet, I don't think there's something wrong with our diet. We're not looking at what are we eating, all these processed food and stuff, what's causing us to have obesity problem and to wake up to like fixing it.
Well, I mean, I think if you look at just something that's very obvious is that our carbohydrate consumption the average is 300 grams a day. That's way over consuming carbohydrates. The RDA is 130 grams a day, and that's probably too high. Hang on one second. Do you hear that? I'm going to see, hopefully you can pause.
Obesity, yes.
Yeah, obesity is a real problem. And, I think at the core fundamentals of obesity is it's not just that people are eating too much and exercising too little. The average carbohydrate consumption in the US is 300 grams a day. Wow. That's more than double the RDA, which is 130 grams a day. And when you think about it, that's probably too high. So that's based on the brain's needs for glucose, but it's probably too high.
Yeah. And then also the sugar too, consumption, right? We're eating so much sugar, so much soda, a lot of soda. We drink a lot of energy drink.
Yeah. I mean, you should never drink your calories.
Yeah.
And people have to understand that carbohydrates should be thought of as in a meal to meal basis. So it's you know, if you are thinking about maintaining body weight, you want to get 40 grams of carbohydrates or less per meal, because this allows for a mitigated insulin response.
Yeah. And so what do you suggest for like, you know, when we look at diet, because here's the thing that I have that I get so confused. And my son talks about whey protein, exactly what you were saying. And I'm like, I'm totally like, Jonathan, I don't know enough about whey protein. You know, I need you to go research it, because I was like, we just can't buy something without really researching, understand what are the ingredients in whey protein. Is there something that will cause a disruptor to your body, right? So I was like, Jonathan, you need to go on the internet, go research all these things, tell me which one is good. And I'm willing to spend the money so that you get a good whey protein instead of just being cheap on something, because what we're putting in our body is so important, right? I don't want to be on that in the future has a side effect, and he's a teenager and he works out and all that sort of stuff. So there's so much information out there that I don't know what's the right way to do it unless you really take the time to research.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that the literature is pretty clear that whey protein is really good for you, especially if you're aging. It has a high amount of branched chain amino acids, particularly leucine, which is necessary for maintaining muscle mass. And it also, you know, when you replace protein for other higher fat, higher carbohydrate foods, you increase satiation, you're less hungry, you have more of a thermogenic effect, so you actually burn more energy to utilize that protein. There's a lot of other beneficial effects. You know, amino acids are the building blocks of life.
Yeah.
You know, we have an essential need for them.
Yeah. But how do we know what's good and what's not? You see what I mean? Because
I think that you pick companies that you trust.
Yeah.
I work with a company called Firstform. They're amazing. They have a great natural whey. You know, you determine the companies that you trust, and, you know, reputation means a lot.
Yeah. Because it's when you're talking about ingesting food, right? We need to start like water and food. For me, the water is important. Like now that I'm in the water business, I'm like, okay, I need to understand.
So cool.
Yeah. I need to understand more about water. I need to understand what is it, you know, that's in the water that I'm drinking. And like now, like even with my stuff, it's like I before I was clueless.
Right.
You know, okay, tap water, you know, bottled water, that's all that stuff. But once you start learning, just like your brain starts like, okay, I need to learn more, because it's not, there's just so much information, but there's so many false information. There's so much like things that you don't know if if no one shares with you, right? If there's no experts.
Right. There are experts when it comes to nutrition for sure. As it relates to water, I don't know so much, but you know, I think that validating your source is really important for sure.
Yeah. And so what was your journey of coming to this, helping people and bringing awareness?
Yeah. Well, I am second generation functional medicine. So my godmother, her name is Dr. Liz Lipsky, and I moved in with her when I was 17. She wrote the book Digestive Wellness. She's been in this field for 30 plus years. And I started seeing from a very early age the impact of health and nutrition. So I trained with, you know, her when I was 17, and that just really changed the trajectory. And I did a lot of training because I felt that having really good evidence, and while there is an art to medicine, there also has to be science.
Yeah.
So it was really important to me to be as educated as I could from the finest institutions that I could.
Yeah, that's amazing. Because I myself feel like I'm transitioning from my career in accounting to this health and wellness, and I enrolled in a functional nutrition class. And, you know, I have to go back and go through the lessons, but it's just like, for me now, it's a desire to really figure out what's in my body. You know, it's like, how does all the food impact each component of our body?
Right.
We don't understand enough and we take things for granted that we just like eat. We just really don't take the time to understand what the impact to the different organs and the different parts and what we need.
Yeah, it's certainly very valuable to have that fundamental understanding for sure. So it's great that you're doing that.
Yeah, thank you. So do you do a lot of speaking arrangement and coaching or what?
I do. I do a
Yeah,
lot of speaking. I do a lot of educating. Yeah, I do.
that's awesome.
And and then I have a private practice. I have more of a concierge style practice
Mm-hmm.
where we take select amount of patients.
Uh-huh. And most of the clients that find you, do they go through like through referral? They go on the internet? How do they?
Yeah, I would say mostly word of mouth for sure. A lot of intra referrals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And so do you like look at for kids or just mostly for adults or for families? What have
Mostly
you?
adults and mostly families if people really want to get better. So my husband is a retired Navy SEAL. He's in the service for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that because what I take care of a lot of SEALs and special operations in my practice. It's much more effective to see a family
Mm-hmm.
because the travel history does play a role
Mm-hmm.
in an individual's health, environmental exposures, if they're doing things like going out and shooting guns and then
Mm-hmm.
coming back, so really understanding the whole family dynamic is really helpful. But
Yeah.
that being said, I do take care of some teenagers, lots of adults, and lots of families.
Yeah. Because if you think about like nutrition, it has to come from the family, right?
Yeah,
Because
it
if
does.
you have only one person who cares about health and then
Yeah,
the rest of the family doesn't care about health, then okay, well, what happens is there's this disalignment of like what's important. And then you're struggling
right,
to be healthy and then everybody else is eating junk food or something and like
right. And then also, the gut microbiome is very, quote, contagious.
mm-hmm.
Typically if some person has a pathogen, another person in the family has the same pathogen. It's
Oh,
very important to be able to treat all of those, when you think about optimization.
yeah, it's all genetics passing down from the parent to the kids and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, and certainly travel history.
Uh-huh. Yeah, because if we think about us, a lot of us corporate people, right? We have jobs and we go and we work and we're traveling all the time, right? We're traveling, we're going on trips and stuff. And what do? We eat out at restaurants, right?
Right.
We eat very unhealthy. We don't cook at home. And then the consequence, of that is like, okay, our health is going to start suffering because we can't take care of our health because that's not a priority when we're working so hard.
Right, for sure.
Yeah. And so if you, for your coaching and you work individually with, you said with different people.
I do, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the way that my practice works is, and this has all been done through trial and error, is that I do either a 2-part deep dive
Uh-huh.
where, these are patients that have been everywhere else. Maybe they've seen 14 other physicians, and we do a
Yeah.
2-part deep dive that is a full working diagnosis. So
Yeah.
it's a full history, understanding of the big picture, and then I'll give treatment recommendations. But the majority of patients typically join me in a 6-month program where it's really about getting them from point A to point B.
Yeah.
And that works really well when things are structured. So they have their first visit, when your second visit is, when your follow-ups. That way it's not a one-off type of a thing, which that's very ineffective. And the more you can implement structure, and even structure as it relates to patient-physician communication, the better the results are.
Mm-hmm. And the commitment for them is that they have to commit in this time frame, because I mean, if you think about in order to change any habits and in order to change your body structure, you have to be committed, right? First you have to have a mindset to commit, and then you're getting your body used to this new habit you're creating, this eating habit, because you just can't be like that. There's no miracle drug out there, right?
I think that you can actually change a habit overnight. I think that if the stimulus is impactful enough, you can change something overnight. I've seen it.
Yeah.
And
So
I think that
the purpose.
Yeah, if the driving force is significant and worthy enough, it doesn't take time. It's an instantaneous change.
Yeah. And it has to be like for instance, if you have a health problem, of course, it's like, okay, you better pick it up and make a change right now. Otherwise, you're not going to be around to like take care of this, right? You better like have a drive to fix it and take care of that.
Yeah, that's a great perspective.
Yeah. And so one more question for you that I always ask, right, my experts
Yeah.
If you have a superpower to change the world, what would that be?
Well, I'd love to be able to help people discern good advice, right?
Yes.
And good wisdom.
Yeah.
So,
It is
just
hard.
sprinkle like magic dust over people, and then all of a sudden they have a way in which they can really have discernment.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if you think about the number one killer in our society is bad advice.
Yeah.
No matter how you frame it, whether it's nutrition advice, health advice, mental advice,
Yeah.
it's the bad advice. It's being able to sift through all the noise.
Yeah. And it is really hard because if you think about, like, when I go to the doctor and I listen to the doctor, I don't know if I should follow the doctor or not, but the doctor is really not a nutritionist. And now there's a more push of, okay, well, you know, this is a doctor, but you need to go see a nutritionist, or you need to go see something, you know, because you just can't expect the doctor to know everything nowadays, right? Because you have to go talk to this doctor, you go to talk to that doctor.
And I think that that's when it comes to evaluating and vetting your sources, and perhaps understanding the framework that the physician is seeing things through, the lens. You know, good medicine is not just about executing good care, right? That's a no-brainer. But other part of good medicine is understanding the operational framework of both the physician and the patient.
Yeah.
Understanding the lens in which the patient views the physician, understanding the lens in which they view themselves.
Yeah.
Then you get exponential results.
Yeah. Because I always look at, I mean, you know, when I go to my doctor, I say, okay, is the doctor taking care of themselves, right? Do they look healthy enough, right? And if they're giving me health advice, I need my doctor to look healthy.
Right. Yeah.
Like, you can't give me advice if you don't look healthy. How
Totally.
can you tell me to go sleep, eat good, and be healthy when you're not taking care of yourself? What's the problem with that?
Right. Totally get it.
Right. So, like, when you're talking to an expert and a coach like yourself, you know, you are a role model, right? We look at you and say, okay, are you taking care of yourself? Do you know what you're talking about? And what are the, you know, what are the sources of people saying about you? And then, you know, do we trust you in what you're saying? Are you in alignment with all the things that you've been teaching us? And then when you're in alignment, then our brain goes, okay, well, I think she's a good source, you know, and then I can go and see her and seek her advice out to provide me guidance, right? Because like I said, it's just too much data.
Right.
You know?
It is.
Yeah. It's like,
and it's important that if you see a practitioner and, you know, they do a lot of public speaking or whatever it is, it's okay if they say they don't know. Or it's okay if they say, you know what, maybe I got this wrong. In fact, you should expect that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's because we don't know what we don't know, right? Well, all of us are human, where it's like at this point in time, we collect the data, we know what we know, and we share what we can share.
Yeah.
Right. But then, of course, we're going to make mistakes because that's the information that we have now that we have gathered.
Right.
Right. And then that's the information that we share because we just want to help people. We just say, okay, well, I know this now, but it's, you know, it's okay to make mistakes because at least I'm not intentional in like giving you false information.
Nobody is. I don't think.
Yeah.
I mean, I truly don't think so.
Yeah. When we were in, you know, we're all intentionally trying to create something better in this world and creating a better future, right? For like generations to come. Like now we don't take care of ourselves, which is, I feel like now it's like a huge paradigm shift.
Yeah.
Right. And where we all have to like look at health. And this is why I'm doing this. It's like this paradigm shift is that I'm looking at health differently. I want to connect all the experts to provide the information for people so that we can become more aware of what's out there and that they can get information to reach different experts to talk about health or mental, spiritual, emotional health and physical health and all that's, you know, that's important to us.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, how do we find you?
Yeah. You can find me on my website, Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, LYON.com. And I have a free protocol. So if you guys have questions or interested in the nutrition stuff that I'm talking about, there's a great protocol there. I'm very active on my Instagram, and that's Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, also my YouTube, all those things. And I have a great newsletter that I spend a lot of time on, and it has some good data, and that goes out every week.
Awesome. That's amazing. And for people listening to this summit, we're making an offer. We're giving them something free.
Yeah, I mean, so that's the free downloadable protocol.
Yeah, that would be helpful for people to
Yeah.
take care of their body and take care of their health and overall. It's so important right now. And thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate you taking the time to connect and being on the show. And I think it's going to be amazing sharing all the information and connecting them with you for your advice and guidance. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.